that there is slowness among us, and the next few years are going to see a drop in disposable income. We're going to see living standards really rather low in comparison to where some think they should be by now. It's found that, well, this is two bits of analysis, has found that families are now projected to be at the start of the longest period of disposable income decline in more than 60 years. This is the Resolution Foundation. They're a think tank. They focus on how to bolster living standards. They said Philip Hammond's speech painted a bleak outlook as the country gets to grips with a slowing economy. Its downbeat tone was mirrored by another study. This was by the Institute of Fiscal Studies. They suggested the UK was on course for 2 decades of lower earnings growth rather than just one following the 2008 crash, and also calculated that national debt may not return to pre-financial crisis levels until the 2060s. Just digest that for a second. The 2060s or later. Many of this, according to some, is being linked to, are you ready? Drum roll, please. Brexit. I remember Dominic Grieve wrote just a few days ago, he predicted that post-Brexit Britain will resemble the Britain of his childhood. He said a stagnating country, slowly declining, with an inability to compete, unable to make ends meet, and becoming rather tatty. 0345 6060 973. I'd naturally like to know, and bearing in mind, I think Philip Hammond did acknowledge in his speech there, I'll play you a little more of what he said in just a second, but I suppose there's something to work on. That's the theory, that if you're told, well, this is how bad it's looking, fear not, because we have a base now, and from that base we can catapult ourselves into a far more sustainable, balanced, opulent position. I think that's the kind of theory around it. 0345 6060 973. Are the doommongers right? Now, these aren't leaders or politicians from the Labour benches or the Lib Dems saying this. This is the Resolution Foundation, the Institute for Fiscal Studies. They are independent. They have no dog in the race other than explaining what they see as the current financial position of our country. If you take all of that into account, it doesn't look rather good. Now, you may have a different view on this. We know that many predictions and many foundations and think tanks and organisations will often predict low and then revise later, as distinct from looking at what appear to be unrealistic figures and then having to go back to the drawing board and say we got it horribly wrong. So there is that. There is this Brexit thing, which we can't really run away from. We can't really escape from that. We're told that it is linked to that there is if you like, an irredeemable link with what is happening with Brexit and the fact that our living standards are going to dip. And you heard it there, the longest period of disposable income decline in more than 60 years. I think we've got a clip of Philip Hammond here, haven't we? We have, yes, indeed. Let's just have a little listen to what the Chancellor had to say.
The challenge for us now as a nation is to prove them wrong. The challenge for us is to deliver that higher productivity that will feed through into higher economic growth. And it's about training our workforce with more skills. It's about investing more capital in our businesses. It's about building more infrastructure, more roads, more railways. And of course, it's about ensuring that we have business confidence so that businesses will invest. That means getting more certainty about what our future relationship with the European Union is going to look like, which we hope we'll be able to do very soon. It means getting consumers feeling more confident about the future so they go out and spend. All of these things we have to do over the coming months and years and get those forecasts upgraded again. That's the challenge ahead of us.
So the challenge is there. He acknowledges the bad news, but the challenge is there. I want to know whether the predictions, as far as you can see or feel, are perhaps out of kilter, whether you sense somewhere that this is all wrong. Not just the Brexit thing. We've got the 2008 crash that will take far longer to recover from than many currently feel. Now, what is interesting about that, if you remember, and I've said this constantly, and no government, I think, ever wants to dwell on it, so they keep telling us about how they're getting us out of a rut and how things are turning a corner and we've got low unemployment and we've got a bit of growth. It's not great, but it's growth. It's north rather than south, and we keep hearing all of this. But back in 08, 09, around about that region, you may remember there were many contributors, speakers and politicians who said that this would be a downturn that would last for a couple of generations. I think it was Ken Clarke that talked about this lasting maybe for 20 years. There was a whole period of time. I'm not inventing remembering this. There was a whole period of time when we did phone-ins on exactly this, these predictions. People saying, don't expect whatever government comes in. Remember was it the former governor of the Bank of England that said whoever gets elected in 2010 will be out of power for several generations. Because what they will have to do, I think it was the former governor of the Bank of England. I just remembered that. Whoever gets elected in 2010 will be out of power for several generations afterwards because their decisions will have to be brutal. It was Mervyn King. Who claimed that. And that was back 7 years ago. So why on earth anybody was predicting or thinking that the coalition, or subsequently against his prediction, the Conservatives were going to wave some kind of amazing economic magic wand and make it all better, I don't know. He said it, politicians said it, economists said it, that don't expect some rosy outlook for our economy for a generation or two. 0345 6060 973. I'm intrigued as to whether you instinctively feel the opposite. Now, it may be an instinct, and some will argue, well, that's not a qualified view, but if you run a company, if you're in business, if you're looking at the figures perhaps from another angle, can you see why these fairly gloomy predictions are not going to be the case? Why you can see perhaps that actually we can usurp this bad news and still make good of things. I'm also bound to say that if you look at growth predictions around other parts of Europe, they're not exactly fantastic. I mean, the 2017 UK predicted growth of 1.7%, France 1.5%, Italy 1.3%, Germany 1.8%, so it's 0.1% more than Britain. There is similarity across the board. This would tell me that the fallout, if this is what it is, from 08, is far from over, and it's clearly not just the UK that's getting a bit of a kicking. But are you feeling it? How are you feeling that this is? Are you getting to that point where your monthly paycheck just doesn't quite stretch? It used to go to the 25th day, now it's the 23rd day, and you're sensing it's only going to take a journey in the wrong direction. 0345 6060 973. Ken is in Newcastle. Hello, Ken.
Good evening, Ian.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you for taking my call. It's hard to get on your show, but I thank you for taking my call. Ian, I hear them all boasting that Great Britain is the fifth wealthiest nation on the face of the earth. Have you heard them stating that?
Most what on the corner of the earth? Say again?
I've heard many politicians on both sides claiming that Great Britain is the fifth wealthiest nation on the planet Earth.
Yes, fifth or sixth. That's by one measure. That is apparently the case.
So, what is the goal? Does the nation want to be the number one wealthiest nation on Earth? This is why I'm questioning this. They're not happy to be the fifth wealthiest. I believe that Brexit is the entrance into European depression and UK depression. We are heading into, and this is just my opinion, we are heading into political and economic chaos, confusion, fear, unemployment, and I believe possible economic and financial collapse, or at least turmoil.
Why?
Because we are leaving the biggest market in the world, 500 million consumers in the European area.
Well, why are they going to stop consuming British products, if that's your point?
Well, We don't know where we're going to sell. We don't know what's going to happen. And this what's happening in the UK will greatly affect Europe. I believe that Europe is headed for collapse, and it might.
Well, if it's headed for collapse, the EU, why do we want to be part of it?
Well, we don't want to be part of it. That's where it's a mix-up of political and economic.
But you're making the point that if we leave, it will be a terrible thing.
It will be a terrible thing, and this will be.
But if we stay, it will be a terrible thing because it's going to collapse.
Yes, it's going to collapse.
Right. So what do we do?
Happens.
All move to America.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Europe will collapse.
Yeah.
We don't know when. It might take turmoil in the European continent for it to happen, but it will collapse, and it will be reformed into 10 kingdoms, and there will be a revised Roman Empire established out of the collapse. This is certain to happen. Do you know how I know that?
The Bible?
Yes.
Thanks. 0345 6060 973. That's the gospel according to Ken. I knew it was going to end up there. It was too good to be true that he went for like a full 2 minutes without even mentioning it. 0345 6060 973. He predicts doom and gloom. Do you share the gloomy outlook? In fact, Ken shares the views of the Resolution Foundation of the Institute for Fiscal Studies. Your thoughts on that? 0345 6060 973. But are you seeing bright lights? Is your glass, in fact, well and truly half full? That you're not buying into this doom-mongering pitch from people like the IFS and others. You believe we can usurp the bad times and the bad news and make things rather good, Brexit or not. Thoughts on that? 0345 6060 973.
This is LBC.
The Nissan Navara Tecna is tough as always
and smarter than ever.
With a 3.5-ton towing capacity and a 1-ton plus payload.
Class-leading fuel economy on manuals and up to 5-year warranty.
All for £269 per month, excluding 20% VAT on business contract hire.
The Nissan Navara Tecna.
Business users only. £269 per month contract hire on Tecna grade manual. £1,616 advance rental. 10,000 miles per annum. Nissan finance subject to status. T's and C's apply.
Ends 21st of the 12th, 2017. Participating dealers only. Nissan.co.uk.
Critics are falling in love with British movie sensation Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool.
That's Gloria Graham, big name in black and white films.
Witness the extraordinary true story of a real-life Hollywood romance.
Won an Oscar too.
Radio Times calls it beautifully made, witty and incredibly moving. And The Guardian says there is tremendous warmth and tenderness to this sweet, sad love story. Don't miss Annette Bening, Jamie Bell and Julie Walters in Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool. In cinemas now. Rated 15.
Jack here has got Kev on the phone. As a PlusNet customer, he has lots of friendly people that have his back. Say hi, Kev.
Hi, Kev. Hi?
He can call PlusNet any day of the week. They've already helped him pick a package, upgrade a package, check bills, move home, give him matrix, ordered SIMs, transferred numbers, added buttons, checked his connection speed. And Julie here even helped him settle on Mallorca for his next family holiday.
Don't forget the factor 30.
PlusNet has lots of friendly staff that just can't help but help. It's probably why they've bagged Uswitch as Best Provider for Customer Service Award. PlusNet will do you proud.
It's estimated that 64 million PPI policies were issued with millions of them missold. Are you sure you weren't one of them? PPI Hotline can check for you and get back the money you could be owed. Text WIN to 82222. We will check if your bank loans and credit cards had PPI for free. And if it was missold, we'll help you win back what you could be owed. Just text WIN to 82222.
PPI Hotline. Text WIN to 82222.
Text will be charged at your standard network rate.
Relax. It's TrustATrader. Just type in your postcode, what you need, and ta-da! Local tradespeople appear. Visit trustatrader.com.
TrustATrader.com.
The Nissan Navara Tecna is tough as always
and smarter than ever.
With a 3.5-ton towing capacity and a 1-ton plus payload.
Class-leading fuel economy on manuals and up to 5-year warranty.
All for £269 per month, excluding 20% VAT on business contract hire.
The Nissan Navara Tecna.
Business users only. £269 per month contract hire on Tecna grade manual. £1,616 advance rental. 10,000 miles per annum. Nissan finance subject to status. T's and C's apply.
Ends 21st of the 12th, 2017. Participating dealers only. Nissan.co.uk.
Late Nights with Ian Collins on LBC.
Good point from Gary, who says, please correct your last caller. The UK is not the fifth wealthiest economy in the world, but the world's fifth largest economy. There is a difference indeed. And also, when we talk, and thank you, Gary, for that, I'm grateful, when we talk about the largest, doesn't mean that individuals are walking around with their trousers full of cash. It's the yardstick to measure size is not, as Gary points out there, does not mean that we're all having it off royally in the money department because of the size of our economy. And of course, if you measure bricks and mortar and plutocrats and tycoons and all manner of other characters coming over buying huge swathes of bricks and land and property in this country, that sort of artificially increases the size of our economy as well. So it is a misleading figure when we see us in that league table. Doesn't mean that things are rubbish, however, but it's just not indicative of personal wealth. 0345 6060 Is it all doom and gloom? Alex in Kinross. What are you thinking, Alex? Good evening.
Hi, Ian. Just a couple of points, actually. First point I'd like to make is this the same Institute of Fiscal Studies that said that we would have an immediate recession, or, sorry, things would be either bad or very bad, I think they said, right after our vote to leave the European Union.
Let me just check, see if it's the same one, Alex. Hang on. Yep, it's the same one.
And also, I also believe they said that the UK would collapse if we didn't join the euro. And obviously, we then had the biggest sustained amount of growth that we've ever had, or we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
I think, personally, I don't doubt these economists. But actually, how do we look at? I'll do work in finance. How do we look at the Institute of Fiscal Studies study? And some things that they don't factor in is things like what can we do when we're free of the European Union? What can we do with trade within the world? They are obviously going to be part of the. If we leave the EU, we're factoring in that we're going to have a declining trade with the EU, but not necessarily an increased trade with the rest of the world. When we've got the second point I'd like to make, very briefly, is that we have very, very full employment in the UK. We don't have full employment, but very near full employment. We have the most number of jobs now that we've ever had. Our unemployment rate is one of the lowest in the G7. We are very successful at job creation. Even in the City of London at the moment, there's 30,000 vacancies in the City of London, although apparently hundreds of thousands of jobs were about to go immediately after our vote to leave the European Union. So, I very much believe in Britain. I'm very much a half glass full kind of guy. We will get through this. They can say whatever they want. And why would Foundation is very
tell me this though, Alex? Why would the Institute of Fiscal Studies have these predictions? What would be their thinking? Is it just to get in the news?
No, the cynic in me would say that they're part of that establishment that really wants to try and make us think that leaving the European Union is going to be the worst thing ever, and they're still bleating on about it. I don't actually think I've actually heard Christine Lagarde apologise for some of our doom mongering. Are they part of the establishment? Is it part of their bigger plan to make us all feel really bad about ourselves and crawl back to the European Union? I don't think so. I think they've got their own agenda, to be perfectly frank.
Good work, Alex. Thank you for that. I do share Alex's intrigue as to independent think tanks and financial fiscal organisations who make predictions. And Alex was quite right. If you look back at the kind of CV of predictions for some of these groups, they're not always exactly bang on. We know that pollsters get things horrendously wrong from time to time, despite being organisations that plough millions into their methodology to try and make it work rather efficiently. And actually, most of the time it does, but certainly think tanks. I mean, these are often just the views of some economists, and as we know, you put 3 economists in a room, you'll come out with 7 different answers to something. Craig's in Glasgow. Evening to you, Craig. What are your thoughts?
Hi, right, I think that we're not at the end yet. It could be a good Brexit, it could be a bad Brexit. That's what my opinion is. But we need a new government. Not the Labour Party and not the Conservatives either.
Who do we need?
Your guess is as good as mine. And you look at any of them, and I think none of them are good enough to run this country now. Their policies are terrible.
Is there ever? Is there? Because I'm kind of, I would not know who to vote for tomorrow. I genuinely would not know where to tick my box. And I think we're increasingly living in a world where, I don't know about you, Craig, but you look at what I think, well, that party makes a little bit of sense on that, and that one makes a little bit of sense on the other. And this idea that we pick our parties like football teams doesn't seem to be quite the case as it was once before, maybe. So, is there such a thing as a government we'd ever look at and go, this lot are fantastic all round? What lovely chaps.
No, you could. I don't think you could, but I think that they should leave party loyalty and think of the country before anything, and then re-amalgamate as a new party, all of them. And to be honest with you, I think most of them shouldn't serve any more than 10 years. That's my opinion. I think a refresh of every MP every 10 years. I think that would be fairer. But I also want to say that Brexit is not the be-all and end-all. I'm against Brexit, but I accept that it's happened. It's going to go ahead. But I think we can delay it. I honestly think that we should delay it until we've got our house in order and we know what we want and we know how much we're going to pay. That's up to the EU, obviously, to allow that.
We will see. Yes, indeed. It is up to them, and I think they're going to add another 10 billion on top of this unconfirmed figure that we hear of 40 billion. Craig, thank you. 0345 6060973. Graham says, so long as we keep Corbyn and McDonnell from completely wrecking our economy, we'll be fine. We're bound to take a bit of a downturn after Brexit, thanks to the doom mongers and the efforts of the EU to punish us. But when we are a free trading nation again, we will prosper. You kind of hope that will be the case. John McDonnell was asked this morning about numbers and said, and I paraphrase here, but this is broadly the point, no hyperbole, said, what numbers? Stop obsessing about numbers. That's for iPads and stuff. He said that. Oh, it doesn't matter about the numbers. We just make stuff better for you. How? We will. Stop banging on about the numbers. Mike in Sidcup, leaving the EU is slowly ruining this country. It could cost the NHS 144 million a week if there is no deal. Many large financial companies are considering moving their operations from London to the continent. Air travel will be considerably more expensive. Churchill advocated a United States of Europe, and we will have to grovel to the United States, China and India for separate trade deals, as we will need them more than they will need us outside the EU. The single market and the EU is growing, but the young and poor will suffer in the UK outside the EU. I'm not sure about the prediction of the EU growing. Parts of it are growing. Parts of the UK are growing. We have a growth rate that at the moment is higher than France and slightly under Germany, but kind of all on par. There's no great chasm between them. And I do wonder that this prediction of doom and gloom could equally be applied to other countries around Europe as well. Is it specifically Brexit? Are you spotting this yourself? Philip's in Stansted. What are your thoughts on this, Philip? Are you feeling grim at the moment? Because that's the word they use to describe this, grim.
Well, the budget yesterday wasn't great. It wasn't bad. But then today they came out and just hammer everything that's going on. We need to be positive rather than negative, because when there's a lot of negativity, people stop spending.
That's very true. Yeah, it has a self-fulfilling effect.
Yeah, I mean, I sell home improvements, and I've noticed this year that my earnings are way down because people have gone, well, we want to see what's going to happen. And I say to them, well, there's nothing you can do. Your home improvements still need to be done regardless of one way or the other.
Yeah.
Perhaps it might cost you more in a year's time. But the thing that annoys me is that all the politicians are not looking out for the country. They're looking out for themselves. They're all trying to score points all the time. Rather going, no, let's back this. And my feeling is we should just walk away from the negotiations and tell them, no, we're not getting anywhere. We're wasting our time with you. So let's call it quits now. Bye-bye. Thanks very much. Let's get on with our lives.
Good point, Philip. Thank you, sir. I think certainly on Brexit, I mean, that, if ever there was something that should have had more of a cross-party flavour to it. I know that's pretty difficult when you've got politicians and parties vying for power, particularly with a close-called election and a minority government that we have right now. Then you're in a fairly tricky place, but certainly notionally, I think the idea that we would have had a cross-party consent, if all politicians agreed, and they seem to kind of agree, that we've got to negotiate our way out of it. The main parties acknowledge the democratic result, even if some of them disagree with it, but they sort of understand they've got to do it. So why the squabbling over these points where at each turn, at each level, after every press conference with Barnier and Davis, there's another fallout. They're rubbish. They're laughing at us. They're not doing it. This should, where possible, have been a little bit more cross-party, but maybe that's hoping for a little too much. 0345 6060 973. More of your calls on this in just a second. Also to come this evening.
Someday my prince will come.
This is I'm not kidding you, this story. This is the British mother who has branded Sleeping Beauty inappropriate because the prince doesn't seek consent before kissing the princess. In fact, it's worse than this, because she's now suggesting that the story should be taken off her little boy's curriculum at school because it has an inappropriate sexual message. This is clearly bonkers. It's off the scale nonsense. Where does this kind of messed up thinking actually come from? We'll look at that in just a little bit. Plus more on the Trevor Kavanagh story. The press watchdog clears the Sun writer who referred to the Muslim problem. David Banks is a media law expert and journalist. We'll chat to David on this very point on LBC in just a couple of moments. Right now, 10:30, and the latest news headlines come from Paul Smith.
Analysis of the budgets by one research group says families could be at the start of the longest period of disposable income decline in more than 60 years. That downbeat tone is mirrored in a separate study by the Institute for Fiscal Studies. Scotland's First Minister says she's dismayed after Brussels ruled a UK city won't be eligible to become the European capital of culture after Brexit. The European Commission says the decision's one of many concrete consequences of withdrawal. The owner of British Gas has suffered its biggest ever one-day shares crash. Centrica's revealed 823,000 household accounts were lost in the 4 months to October. LBC weather: showers in the north tonight with some turning to sleet and snow over Scotland. Rain in the far south of England, mostly dry, cold and clear elsewhere. An overnight low of -3 degrees.
This is LBC.
At Argos, our Black Friday event is on. Get amazing prices on tablets, TVs, game consoles and more, including a 43-inch Hitachi 4K TV for only $299.99. Hurry, our event ends Tuesday. Go Argos. Offer ends 28th of November, subject to availability while stocks last.
I know who designed Princess Di's wedding dress. I know who phoned home. I know how to do a silly walk. And I know which part of the room you should never put baby in. But I don't know my state pension.
Find out more about